So it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to this week's expert session as a part of the AGF Educators Fellowship. I hope you found the first week of the fellowship both interesting and engaging. We kickstarted this transformative journey by discovering our superhero strengths through a reflective activity and then charted on towards the marathon journey of our teaching, which was a creative way to explore our own professional growths and aspirations. So today we continue this momentum with an exciting session. And I'm sure when you heard about this session, you must all be very excited today. So today's session is nurturing the nurturers. As teachers, we always have been nurturing our students and taking care of our families, and we forget to nurture ourselves. So today, this session is entirely for you, nurturing the nurturers, rebooting self awareness, and navigating the SEL maze. This session is being led by the incredible Dr. Radha Singh. Let me introduce her before we welcome her collectively to this show. Dr. Singh is a renowned transformative leadership developer. She's an education coach, a mentor, and a trusted sounding board for school heads, teachers, and education leaders. Her wisdom and insights have earned her a reputation as an influencer in education and leadership. And teachers, while we were trying to create this poster for ma'am, her accomplishments and the awards that she has gained or earned are so many that we could not fit in. So, what we decided to pick up only the few accomplishments of this year. So, when you will understand how she has been taking more than 800 trainings for principals and teachers alike, you will see that how accomplished and decorated influencer in education and leadership is. So we welcome you to the show, ma'am. And
Thank you. Thank you, Shami. Thank you so much. Thank you. You
lovely.
and Aarti equally.
So this session will help us delve deeper into the aspects of self awareness, which is a cornerstone for social emotional learning or SEL. We will also explore how nurturing our own personal growth as educators can foster better connections and outcomes for our students, ultimately leading to a healthier and more supportive learning environment for our students. So, before we begin, I'll request all of you present here today to keep yourself muted during the presentation to maintain clarity, but do participate actively during the interactive segments. We value your inputs and reflections. And thank you for being here. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Radha Singh to guide us through today's session. Dr. Singh, over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody here for sparing the valuable time after a heavy working day, I'm sure. And I'd also like to thank Shami ji, Aarti ji for creating this kind of a platform where learning never stops. So many of us getting in here and sharing information and creating a cohort of educational learners, I'd like to say. We are used to being teachers to some sort of learners who are much younger by age, but then I think a teacher, an educator never stops to be a learner. The more the learner, the better the educator that she is. So keeping that in mind, these kind of initiatives that are being taken, I think they add a lot of meaning and value to the kind of community that we are growing to be. So it gives me immense pleasure to be associated and to get related and connected to like-minded people. I seek to be associated with these kind of people, and I'm very happy that ultimately I found somebody who really is delving deep into these kind of, empowerment, enrichment activities, which will ultimately lead to an enhanced competency in our educators who are actually the pillars of our community. of our society, they are creating a future. So I really, there's a lot of educators I always valued. And thank you to all my precious angels who have joined in here today. I'm so glad you folks are here. And now that you have spared so much of your very valuable time, I also, I very seriously wish that, you're going to be learning something from here today. And what we are going to be talking, like a little bit has already been spoken about. We are going to be talking about what we can say is awareness. The awareness, our self-awareness that we are talking about. We are going to be, we already know what we are. We don't need anybody else to tell us what we are. But we need somebody who will tell us what we are, probably to make it more apparent to us that, that I am this, and unfortunately, I'm not this. I need to be that too. So, this kind of a rebooting that is required to create that self awareness, we need to navigate the social, emotional learning. We call it a maze only because it is not as easy as the three words, literally mean. It is difficult. So, getting into that kind of a situation, I think we need to understand what this is and then a little components. First, I'd like to talk about the relevance because we have research evidence which says when we integrate social emotional awareness with mindfulness practices that we need to be doing, we have seen very strong and consistent results, which is leading to an educator's well-being, that is your well-being, the teacher's well-being, and ultimately enhancing student outcomes. We have enough body of evidence which talks about the enhanced, maximized student outcomes. If that is going to be the case, I don't see any reason why we should not get to know more of ourselves. So we try and reach the maximum student outcome. So we need to first understand what is the social emotional awareness. The words are very, very self-explanatory. We don't need to be thinking too much about this, but they are very deep if we decide to delve into it. Social, emotional, awareness, these are very heavy weighted words. It doesn't stop at the just face and facade meaning, you know. So we are talking about the skills which are going to be increasing our or enhancing our competencies that will ultimately help all of us maintain and lead a very healthy life, develop healthy relationships with our own self and the people around us. And it'll have many components, many skills, like, so once we start diving deep into it, we'll realize communication is important, empathy is equally important if you have to be developing social awareness, relationships have to be built. We need to know how to take decision to solve problems, and how are you going to manage your own self. That is the most important thing. So when we're going to be talking about these, we need also to understand there are going to be 5 core competencies. These 5, if are maintained, we may say, we are safe to say that probably we are on way to elevated self-awareness. I know myself now. All of us, there's nobody who doesn't know their own self. But do you really know yourself, your strength, your weaknesses, your opportunities and your threat? Has anybody ever done a SWOT on their own self? Probably no, because everybody thinks I know myself the best. Nobody knows me better than me. But then there is one side which is on the other side of the mirror, which is behind the face on the mirror, which is very difficult to understand. So these 5 competencies: self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision making, social awareness, relationship skills. All these have to be enhanced, have to be maximized to make sure that it will be leading to maximum social, emotional quotient and increase there. Not just being there, it has to increase this quotient. The emotional quotient has to increase. Probably we are okay, partially okay on the social side, but the emotional quotient that has to be maximized. Probably once we master this emotional quotient here, we can say that I'm able to manage my time better. I'm able to manage my emotions better. I don't get stressed. I have time for myself. I enjoy what I do. A lot of such things can be possible if we maximize the achievement of probably these five skills and especially the emotional skill. So now what is the self-awareness? There are two words here, the self and the awareness. So what is it? Okay, now when we're talking about self-awareness, we need to understand, we are going to be understanding our strength, weaknesses, our vulnerabilities, our thoughts, feelings. It's written very clearly here. The words independently mean something, but together they mean completely different things. Now we are more bothered about the completeness, the self-awareness as a whole. So we can also see many times we have seen that, when there is a conflict, how do we resolve that conflict? The person who is in front of you in a conflict situation, he turns around probably and says, stop this drama, enough. That's exactly what we are trying to say. The self-awareness is going to make sure that this emotional drama that is going to be resolved, that are going to vanish. Once you know what you are, the deeper meaning of what you are, it doesn't stop with I, me, main hoon. No, it's not just main. We need to understand there is something more beyond that. So, what is the self we are talking about? When we talk about the self, it is your own being with your knowledge, your values, which is ultimately going to impact a relationship with these attributes. So you don't stand alone. We are always going to be talking about the self, which is going to be related to the people that you're going to be interacting with, because you're not going to be standing alone. You are a social being, you are going to interact. So this being is your being with other people. So how you are going to be there by yourself is going to determine what kind of a self are you. And knowing what kind of a self that makes you different from others. You are unique. You may not find anybody exactly like you. You don't have clones. You may have somebody who has some similarities, probably siblings or a lot of things, but you are unique in your own way. So the way you deal with the situations around you, the way you call yourself, the way you think you are attributed, that could be being very cooperative. Somebody might say you're too intelligent, a lot of those kind of things. When those kind of things are happening, you say, I'm unique, because it doesn't match exactly with the others. They may have some attributes. So now we need to identify what are those kind of things that you can do to make sure that this self matches with the awareness and creates something that you know more. I know myself well. How is that going to happen? Now, this is what we were saying. I is an amalgamation of a lot of things, not just these four. These four are just an example. There are many more to this. That is why understanding that I is not that easy. It's so easy to say, I did it, I did it. But what is that I? We don't know. We need to understand what that I is. It may sound like a little psychic, but it is not psychic. This is exactly what is going to help you encounter and dissolve the conflicts that you have. Ultimately, if you're going to be happy, the people around you, your family, your children, your school students, they are going to be happy because you're going to be spreading happiness, provided you're going to be happy. You're going to keep yourself happy only when you know what is making you unhappy. So you try and avoid all the unhappiness and then ultimately end up being happy. So now what is the self concept? What is it that you know about yourself? We know it is going to affect the way we are going to relate to others. A weak self concept will often distort your perceptions. The way people see you, you may feel you're strong, but the way you are behaving, the way you're expressing probably may not be strong enough. So people are going to think, no, she's not strong enough. How does a person identify or select candidates in an interview? The way you present yourself, isn't it? So when you're going to be presenting yourself in a particular way, it gives very clear indication about what you are. That is something which you may know, you may not know. But I'm able to see it. You're nervous. You're twitching your fingers, for example. Why would you do that? If you're nervous, you're doing it. But when I ask you, you say, no, I'm not nervous. I'm okay. But your demeanor, it is exhibiting that probably you are a little nervous about something. We don't know what, but you are a little nervous. So knowing how you're feeling and how you are there, what kind of projection that you're giving, your being there, that will definitely determine your own concept about yourself. So we need to keep that in mind as to how you feel about it to enhance your concept about your own self. Now, look here, there's something which says we are all, as human beings, we're all playing multiple roles. A woman, for example, she can be herself, who probably is a daughter, who is a sibling to a brother or a sister, who's a spouse, who's a parent, who is a teacher. So somewhere while playing so many roles, there may there may be conflicts, and it is generally seen that there are conflicts, in fact, because there are too many very varied roles that she's taking on. At home, she's a daughter-in-law, she is a set of parents, daughter as well. So with those kind of things, you are something with one person, you're something with some other person. So this kind of a conflict leads to a lot of discomfort, which ultimately, when you resolve it, you feel, oh my God, why did I do this? Typically with children, the lady encounters. She is generally, when she is stressed, she may not be very friendly. She may not be very sweet to her children. She may be a little harsh. But a backlash, think back, reflect upon it, think what she did through the day. She may feel, oh my God, I wish I had not told such things to my child. Poor thing. Let me go and comfort. But those guilty feelings have to get resolved somewhere at some point of time. But if it didn't arise, if we had handled the situation differently, this question of discomfort, this kind of tension, this kind of guilty feelings, they won't have arisen at all. The question of these arising would have vanished, they wouldn't exist at all. So, having that kind of a deep understanding about your own self, that is the self concept, it helps to negate a lot of tension, and you as an individual are at peace. That is exactly what you're going to be identifying as to how you're going to be looking at yourself. So, now what is this awareness? This I and me together is self, knowing about yourself. And this awareness doesn't begin at birth. This you learn in every stage of your life. It gradually develops and it manifests in multiple ways. And this awareness keeps changing from time to time. So there is no one particular structure. If you feel that I'm very sensitive, does it mean you're going to remain sensitive all your life? Maybe, may not be. So it is bound to change. So this awareness about your own self is not permanent. It is going to change with time. Since it is very dynamic there, we need to know how am I going to be assessing myself with time. You need to modify with time. You need to change with time. As a girl, you would have behaved in a particular way. As a young woman of 30, you would have behaved in a slightly different way. At 40, you behave in a completely different way. At 50, you're different. So you are not going to be the same in various stages in life. Your awareness about yourself is going to change. And while it changes, you need to become aware about how your own opinion about yourself is going to change. So, this is what you're going to be experiencing now. Now, when you're talking about that I is a big thing. So, it is not what is seen apparently, it is very deep. There's a lot that's going inside that single letter I. And to understand what this I is, we need to understand your own entity. We need to see you as a holistic person. So that when I'm going to be identifying my strength and weakness, when I do a SWOT on my own self, I know as an experiencer, because it's the person I experience. I feel like this. I can do it. So there is a lot of I there. But what is that I? We need to understand. It is a combination, it is an amalgamation of a lot of other attributes which lead to the development of a particular personality. Now, what about this me? This me is something like gender, sex and gender, right? The sex is something you're born with, and this gender is something that the society gives you. Similarly, this I is something that you have, that is I. And what about this me? This me is something that is given or which is attributed to you socially. And many times, when we are talking about this me, it comes as a part of your reflexive component. It doesn't come as a independent self. It comes differently. You need to turn back, you need to introspect, you need to reflect upon how things have happened to say me. This shouldn't have happened to me, not I. So this happens as a part of your social growth. So there is a difference between I and me. And when you have this I and me operating in sync in dynamics, then you have your self. And we are going to deal with the self and not with the I and me. So when we're going to be talking about this I and me, we can't leave this id, ego, and superego. I'm sure all of you are very familiar, being educators for so many years. I'm sure you know it is something that you are born with, you know, and that is always seeking pleasure, and it is very short-lived. As you grow, as the child grows, what's going to happen? That id is going to be mastered, or it is going to be taken away by the ego. Ego is going to monitor, it's going to control that ego. For example, it would mean the child, the little baby throwing tantrums. He doesn't know. He thinks, it's pleasure seeking. He wants it. That's it. There is no reason. There's no logic to it. I want it. I want it. So now, as he grows, how does a tantrum stop? By the development of ego. What does the ego do? It says, no, you shouldn't be doing it. It's wrong. So gradually the tantrum goes. That's why when children throw tantrums and we say, no, we have to control this XYZ and things like that. What do people say? No, with age it'll go off. Why will it go off? Will it vanish by itself? No, it is the ego which is developing and which is going to take care. But then there's another thing that is going to be happening. That is the superego. What does the superego do? It takes care of it acts as a moral policing. It takes care of what is socially accepted. This is where your self comes in. Everything that is approved by the society, accepted by the society, is what is permitted by the superego, which can be performed. So now, if you connect it with what is happening with your profession as an educator, we know as a teacher, you can do this, 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 this. You can't go more than that. That is determined by what? Your superego. So this superego, the emergence, which is very important, you need to understand what is it that I can do and how much is it my limit. I cannot go beyond that limit. And even at home, you would have seen, there are some things I can't do. I can't go beyond this. So the superego factor is very important. And when we are trying to be aware of ourselves, when we're talking of self-awareness, we need to understand this super ego influence, which is going to determine how you are going to be aware about yourself. Do you know your boundaries? Do you know your deliverables? How much is it that you can do? And what is it that you can do? The superego is going to be extremely important here because it is going to be talking about the socially accepted systems that we are talking about. So, when we're talking about self awareness, you may want to talk about the personality traits, which we're already talking, personal values, because the personal values is going to be determined by the superego. Then, this superego is also going to determine what is your habit, then your emotions, the emotional quotient, then your psychological needs. What is it that I want? I want some love from the people around me. I want to give love to my children. I want to spend time with my children. I don't want to be bugged by all these kind of things. I want some me time. All these needs will be monitored, will ultimately lead to the awareness about your own self. Now, we are going to be talking a little about all these kind of things that will ultimately lead to the self-awareness part. So what do? No, first you examine yourself, you introspect and see. We're going to look into it at depth, so don't look at the words and get foxed. Then the next is your self-expectation, because as an individual, there are some expectations that you have. Then how are you going to direct your expectation to get the outcome that you are deserving, that you think you deserve, which is going to be broadened perception. That is going to be your awareness. Am I going to be like this? This is my weakness. I always thought I was very fearless, for example. I was never scared. I'm fearless. But when it actually needed to be fearless, was I really fearless? Maybe, may not be. For example, if I was not fearless, I know it that I did not do well. And the others also know, given no, she didn't behave fearlessly. She was scared. So what does that say? It says, yes, that is my weakness. I have to overcome this. Next one probably could be patience. I thought I'm very patient. I'm a good teacher. I'm very patient with my children, with family, and with my school students. I'm very patient. But when it really needed to show patience, was I patient? I thought probably I am patient. I am demonstrating patience. Ask somebody else who is observing you. They will say, no, you were so impatient. You were shouting, raising your voice, losing your cool. So, what is it? I thought something, but the reality is something else. So, this is that awareness that you need to bring in. And this comes by broadening your perception. You need to be open to feedback, which is going to broaden your outlook about your own self. So, how do you do that? How do you understand yourself? I don't know how many of you have heard of this Jory window. This is an excellent tool, actually, very simple, uh, not very complicated, but then it helps you understand your own self. You work independently, you can do it side by side, so that you get an idea of where you stand. I'll show you what it looks like. It talks about how you know yourself, how the others know you, and how are you going to be dealing with the situation where you don't know something about yourself, but you are demonstrating the others are able to see you. And there is some aspect which both of you don't know, but it's there inherent in you. This is what it looks like. Can you see the first column on the left side? It says known to self. And on the right side, you have not known to self. And vertically, you can see it is known to others. And below that, you have not known to others. Now, what is going to happen? When you know something about yourself and the others also know about you, it is in the open. I know you, you know me. So it is a big body. It is a huge body which exists where I am myself and the others also know. For example, if I'm a little chirpy, I enjoy, I get tense. I know it. And if I demonstrate, my friends are also seeing, the whole lot is seeing. So they know कि she is a jolly, happy-go-lucky kind of person, not to worry. So that comes into this open area. This is the arena where we have. And ideally speaking, when you're talking of awareness, this quadrant has to be big. This has to be the biggest. What is the next on the right side? It's saying something is about you, it's known to the others, but it's not known to you. Now, a listener, for example, I never thought I'm a good listener. I didn't even focus on that. But after a particular event, there is somebody, the others are saying, you are such a great listener. Wow, wonderful. We love it. Was I really listening? I didn't know I was a great listener. But there is somebody who's telling you, you are a great listener. So, what does this mean? We are in a spot where you don't know about yourself, but there are others who are giving you a feedback. Now, if you use this feedback for your benefit, this first quadrant, the open quadrant, becomes even bigger. This is how you become self aware. Look at the one on the third quadrant here, which is talking about known to self, not known to others. This is where you hide some things. You don't want everything to be seen. You don't want to share everything. So, what's going to happen? You hide something. You know it, but the others don't know. But if you made the others know about it, the results will be better. Now, for example, I know we have to be doing the exams are coming. We need to be working on this line. I'm giving this activity because we have to take care of the exams. But what about the others? They don't know why I'm doing it. But if they also knew why I'm doing it, together we could have done better. And the first quadrant again becomes bigger. The next slide that we are seeing probably will explain this better. And what about the other one, the last quadrant, the fourth? Both of us don't know. It is completely hidden. But when you're working together, it just comes up. So when this quadrant becomes smaller, we can say that we are converting this into either the first one, the second one, or the third one. The fourth one, the right side bottom, has to be the smallest. Have a look here. There we are. This is where it is. So we have an option to vertically shift the first quadrant to the second and the first quadrant to the third, ultimately reducing the quadrant number 4, the one which is unknown. This is an ideal Johari's window. Now, how do you do that? We have this is done by somebody, some other participant. They were asked to do it. Come on, put these adjectives here and see where you stand. So this is where it came. How do we interpret this? Now, on one hand, we said the first quadrant has to be the biggest. And here you can see the first quadrant is the smallest. What does it mean? It means probably the person is very inexperienced, very immature, and who is somewhere not clear about what he or she is. They need help. And look at the fourth quadrant. It is so full. The quadrant which is to be small, it's so full. That means what? There is something in him or her. They think they have it, but it's not there. They're living in a fool's paradise. It's just a very wrong awareness. They don't know themselves. So when these kind of words are given to you here, give me a minute. Let me get those words for you. There we are. We have these kind of adjectives. These are typically given. We don't go beyond these. These are generally shared, and we are asked them to put them into the quadrants like you did. You just saw. So you know what is your strength, what is your weakness, and how are you going to deal with that weakness? How are you going to convert this small, the fourth quadrant, make it small, and make the first quadrant the biggest, like we saw in this picture here. There we are. This is exactly how it should be. And if you get a quadrant like this, you know we are on track. We are in the right place. We don't need any kind of counseling. Generally, people who are in the red quadrant here need help. They may need to go to the counselor to understand their own disposition better than anybody else, because they don't know what they have. Neither are they showing anything. Here, showing anything does not mean you overtly try to project something. No, it is not acting something out. You have to be authentic, be your own self. That is why this reflection is very important. You think about yourself, you think about how things are happening, and then you decide. That's why there are 55 adjectives that are given. And out of that, you choose and put them in the right quadrant and create some graph like this. And if you have the quadrant one, which is the biggest, then you know you're on track. Otherwise, you take help from your peers. The feedback that you see here, there we are. Feedback solicitation. Can you see it here in the quadrant number two, blind area? What does it say? When you get a feedback, for example, like I just told you about being a listener, I did some listening activity and I got a feedback that I was an excellent listener. That's a feedback. That feedback now means what? Something which is there in quadrant two has shifted to quadrant one. So this quadrant one becomes a little bigger. And that's exactly what is supposed to happen. And same thing is happening with three. There are so many things I'm not revealing, and the others don't know about me. Now, for example, in your work area, now take your school. In your work area, there is something I know. For example, how to make this project. We are a team of 6 people. I know how to do it, but I'm not sharing with the others. I had gone for a training, I learned and came, but I'm not sharing with the other 5 of them. Can you get good results? Can you maximize your result? Maybe not. So now what are you going to do? How are you going to manage this? Because you know it is not happening. Now look at it on the flip side. If you shared, if you exposed, if you talked about what you already know, the work definitely gets done better. So now what happens? Something from the quadrant three has gone to quadrant one. So this quadrant three also becomes bigger. So gradually, this introspection, this reflective activity will take place once you share. And the more this kind of reflection happens, and the more the size of the quadrant one gets bigger, we can say you're getting more and more aware about your own self. Now here, this is a little bit about what each of the quadrant says. We are talking about the quadrant number one, which is open area, the one which I said has to be the bigger. You can see it here. It says it talks about public awareness, and it gets bigger over time as relationships mature. So this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. We can say very safely that probably you're not born with it, but it gets bigger over time. And look at the blind area, that is quadrant number two. That is, it is something about you that you don't know. That's why it's a blind spot where you're concerned. But a feedback that you get from the others will help you understand that probably you have it in you, but you didn't know you had it. And this is a situation many of us are in oftentimes, many situations. We really don't know that I have it in me. Even when you see, when you get people to dance, or when you people get people to do a public speaking, do anchoring, they are very skeptical. They don't want to take, but I insist you do it, and they do it very well. We turn back and say, you did a great job. They say, oh, I never thought I had it in me. It is that situation, it is that area. But now that you know, you're better off. You'd like to do more about it. So you're more aware. Yeah, I can speak publicly. Wow, that's awareness for you, which you didn't have earlier. So that is the blind area. And the number of items that you reduce in the blind area and bring them to the open area, you get more aware about your own self. Now, this is the quadrant number three, the hidden area. What does it say? I I have something I know, but the others don't know. I hide. Now, this does not mean you'll be sharing all your personal problems, your domestic issues, and things like that. No, no, that's not the thing. What are you going to share? Since we are all working as educators, what you can share probably is something that is directly related to the, what do you call, your work, your school, and your activity. If something that is going to benefit the outcomes that are expected, the deliverables in your work, you don't share it with others, then you say you are hiding. And hiding material, information, or whatever that that will really enhance working environment. It will lead to less productivity. You want to enhance productivity as a teacher, like I just gave you the example about a project. You know you're not sharing with others, so it's not going to come out good. Same thing, probably even an annual day. I have great choreographical ideas. I have great musical orientation. I can actually tell you what music goes with what, but I won't share with you. Is the event going to be good? No, it may come out. You may have a presentation, but may not be the best. But then if I shared it with somebody, if I told them that the project is to be done like this, do this, definitely the end result is going to be good. Similarly, the outcome of the children will also be good. If you're not going to be hold back on the information that has to be shared with the students or your colleagues. It can even extend to your home. I took the school scenario because we're very familiar with that. We do have, unfortunately, there are educators who say, no, ma'am, I won't like to share. You have written a good lesson plan. Why don't you share it with her? Ma'am, no, I'm not okay. I don't want to share. Let her write her own. What is this? This is the hidden area. You don't want to do it. And the others know that you know better than them, but you don't want to share with them. That's not a good situation to be in. It doesn't lead to productivity. It hinders. If we open up and share only that information, which is going to lead to productivity at work, which is going to enhance outcomes, we should be able to do that. And if we do it, we say we are out of the hidden area. We are not masked. We are not covered. And the other one is, it is completely unknown. So you don't even know. How will you ever get to know what's happening here? It's only by interaction, by pure communication. If you remember in the earliest slide, we talked about communication. Did you see it here? Array, where is it? We talked about communication, right? Uh-huh. Where did it go? Anyway, it's okay. Leave it. We did talk about communication. This is where it is important. The more we communicate openly, the more we can make sure that the end here, the unknown domain, gets reduced to bare minimum and it gets converted to, it gets pushed over here. The shared discovery. Can you see it here? The shared discovery will lead to reduction in the size of the unknown domain. That's why it is small here. And this is what you need to be aiming for. Now, can you see what's written here? A large open area. That is when we can say that we are more productive, we are cooperative, and it creates an environment for progress. What about the blind area? That is the second area. It only talks about how we can get better by taking a constructive feedback. So this is where the peer influence comes. When one teacher is going to tell you, your family is going to tell you tell your children to enhance, or your mother is telling you something, your spouse is giving you some information. So all those kind of information, the feedback that you get, the constructive, authentic feedback that you get, that will lead to enhancement of your awareness. Look at the last one. It says, no one works at their best when they are in the dark. That is the blind area. It is important to reduce the size of your blind area. That means you have to be open to taking feedback. Now, this feedback cannot be biased. It has to be authentic. Now, how do you ensure that the feedback is authentic? Only by creating an environment, creating a situation where the person who is giving the feedback is also seeking a feedback from you. When both of you are there at the same platform, then it works. Don't go and ask somebody who's not a great friend of yours. And we are not trying to please anybody. There is no appeasing act that's happening here. We are all trying to evolve by supporting each other in the most authentic ways. And now, this feedback seeking has to be done willingly. If you're not willing to take a constructive feedback, then probably you may see a bias. You may feel that the feedback is biased. So you have to work with it with a, a person who probably is oriented towards giving you authentic, your well-wisher. You have your friends, they can always do it. We do have, right? And when our friends give you this kind of an info feedback, we need to understand that this is authentic. We need to be, this is there. And when many people talk about the same thing, that's why we don't take feedback from one person. It's a small group that we have. And when the group says, yeah, it was really very good, that is many people complimenting you for what you did. And if you had done something which you thought you can't do, you had reservations and you aced it, you did it beautifully, automatically the feedback is going to be good and that will certainly be authentic. And what about the hidden area? Like I already told you, you can't increase your performance. You can't do justice to the work that you're given. The outcomes may not be good if you're working in a masked domain. You have to be out of it. You have to share what is relevant for the job and get it done. Get done with it. And staying in the unknown area purely out of inexperience, no knowledge, it's not going to help. We need to take help to make sure that this kind of domain is getting reduced. It doesn't stay the way it is. Now, this is the most important thing. We were talking about these awareness situations changing with time. So even this quadrant that we are talking about, it will change with time. It won't stay the same. So the more you do, the multiple times that you do, the various segments that you take care of at one particular time will make sure that you get more and more aware about you, yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses. And this is exactly what is important if we have to be evolving with time. And if you don't even know what I can do, I don't get to maximize my output. I don't get to optimize my outcomes. I cannot prepare my children, my students to maximize their outputs also. They have their ambitions. I have a job to do. So we need to get this in mind so we can facilitate the upcoming of our children and the domain that they need to be identifying. We will not be able to do it if we don't have our own awareness clear. We need to know that. So we have to be uh, reducing our hidden area and increasing the open area. The more we do, the more we practice, the better are the results. Less stress for you, less stress for the people around you, less guilt. So all those negativity that we have, that you are struggling with, many teachers, come back and say, ye nahi ho raha hai, time to hai hi nahi. Then if probably we knew how to coordinate with people and delegate activities at home, talk to them and see that the activity is happening the way it needs to happen, probably you'll feel a little better than, you are doing. So this awareness is very important even to manage your stress levels. You know how to do it. But then doing this is very important. This task probably you'll be expected to do sooner or later. And this can be given to you. Anybody who wants, you can take a pick here because you'll need these adjectives to fill in your jury's window. This is part one of the activity that we are talking about. Very soon we'll have a part two happening next week. So you can do your jury's window and give your feedback about what you understood about your own self, what kind of a reflection that you had. So you can take a pick of these adjectives here, or I can give it to Shami ma'am, and she can share with all of you. This is important. Without this, probably it'll be difficult to create your own jury's window. And you can have portfolio where you can start, you can date it, and you see how you have evolved with time. How many were there in which quadrant, and which quadrant is, changing sizes, and how you are getting modified to suit the requirements of your presence. Here, this is the next thing I want you to do. When you come next time, before that, kindly spend a little bit of time and think over the last week, what was the strongest emotion you had experienced? Okay. And beside each emotion, you can write down what was your body language. Many times people feel, there has been a challenge. I felt strong emotion, probably a negative emotion, and I ended up getting a headache. Many of them say, I upset my stomach, I lost my appetite, you know, I lost my cool. There's so many things that are happening. So, what is it that happened to you? And once you know what happened, automatically you will know what is to be done after you do the Jory Wiz window for yourself. So, you do that first, and then you do this. I want you to do this, please, because that is going to lead to a lot of revelation about your own self, which you never thought you had. And then it'll also tell you very clearly as to how it was, overcome. How did you overcome the whole thing? What did you do? And if you didn't do it, how can you do? That'll help you a lot. So I want you to try this activity. And when we meet in the second part, I'll be there also. So kindly share your, experience. How did it work? And the next thing that you need to write on will be how you became aware. You know, we are going to be talking about how did it work? How did you recognize? How did it, how did it feel? What kind of emotion? What kind of sensation? Many of them will say, it was so bad. I was so angry. My body was shaking with anger. A lot of those kind of things. What kind of thought was going in? This is completely reflective. This is and there is nothing right or wrong about any of these. Neither the jury's window. It is yours. It is very unique to you. So what you're writing there is just for you. I don't want you to share with me, show me, but I want you to share what was happening, and did you do it honestly, and did you see the thing that happening, which is actually true. If you did it honestly, it'll be true. And if you're trying, and don't do to look good to your own self. You are the best. But when you're doing it, if you need to evolve, if you need to understand, try and do it genuinely. Just be there, do it. Don't go about looking at something else and say, no, yes, say if I write this, that will be negative for me. That's okay. Only when you identify the negative can you make it positive, isn't it? So don't try to modify anything. Write it as it is, because it's only you who's going to read it. Nobody else is going to read. So there is nothing that you've got that has to be hidden. So please look into it. And this understanding the body language, why is it important? It is very important only because every time we are going to be interacting with people, whether it is at home or at work, it is this gesture that we are talking about that is actually going to matter. Many times, I don't know how many of you, I think many of you can actually relate to it. Um, Children, or even, our students, they turn around and they say, don't mess around with her today. Whether, don't mess around with mom, mummy, don't mess around with her, don't mess around with ma'am today. She looks to be in a bad mood. Many of them don't just say that. That's all your gesture, the way you're going to be showing yourself. And why is that happening? That is happening because we have not identified what is it that is stressing. And even if we identified what is bothering, we have not identified what are we going to do about it. Because this kind of a thing is going to be upsetting your activity. It is going to be upsetting a lot of the activities, the outcomes of what you're going to be doing, whether it is at school or even at home. You may raise your voice and respond. How are you going to resolve that conflict? It is gotten created, but how are you going to manage? How are you going to resolve it? How are you going to end it? Either you shout, the other person is going to sit quiet, or the other person shouts and you keep quiet. But is that the way we resolve? There can be better ways to resolve, isn't it? So the more you know about these things as to what your strength is, what your weakness is, what is it that I can do, what is it that blind spot that I'm not able to, I'm not able to see, and there is another person who's seeing. We need to be open to accepting that feedback. And the more we do, the greater the chances are that we resolve these kind of conflicts amicably. And a person who can do this has a greatest self-awareness. He knows himself well. That's when we say, I know myself too well, I can manage it. So we do have an awareness where we are able to handle some things, but not all things. To make yourself optimize and deliver better, the self-awareness is the best thing to have. And when we are talking about the emotional quotient, because life typically for a lady who is more for a lady who is trying to balance work and life and work and home, challenges are too many. It's an emotional roller coaster. Many times we see she's carrying her you know, home bad baggage to school and bringing her bad school baggage to home. What is the ultimate result? The ultimate result is things are messed up. There's a lot of disharmony there. It's not a harmonious existence. If we need to get that in place, we need to have a great emotional quotient. Now, what does this emotional quotient do? This emotional quotient is going to mention, it's going to take care of how you're going to present yourself. How are you going to manage your conflict? What is it that is needed to make sure that you are going to be balanced? Now, when you're talking of the normal intelligence, when we're talking, what is that? Generally, we say you're learning information, the content, the knowledge, the application of the knowledge, all those gets qualified as your regular intelligence, IQ, intelligent quotient. But what about this EQ? EQ is more important than IQ. Why is the thing? Because it is going to make sure that you are going to manage both your emotion and understand the emotion of the person around you. That is when we say you are trying to unify the whole thing. A person who is high on EQ will make sure that things are going to be normal and very amicable around them. It's not going to bother anybody. And here, this is exactly what we are writing. Why is it more important than the IQ? Because IQ purely is for academic, professional, social, like, the first one, the bullet point says. But the second one is the skill that can be taught and cultivated, and outline methods for incorporating emotional skills training in the school's curriculum and work and at home. And the person who is saying it is the person who coined the term emotional intelligence. Since it can be learned, it can be fostered into people, it can be developed in human beings, it is all the more important to say that every time we are going to be dealing with a variety of situations, whether at home or at work, the emotional quotient, the higher, the better. Why is it like that? Emotional intelligence is talking not only about your lessons, it is not talking only about the way you feel about people, it is talking about the way you deal with the people around you and yourself. So, the self awareness is going to make sure that you are able to maintain, learn more emotional intelligences. You try to enhance your levels of emotional intelligence, ultimately leading to a very productive and less stressful outcomes. Because the work at school is not getting any easier, it is getting a little stressful. So if you don't know how to increase your emotional quotient. It may be a little more stressful because you're not able to deal with a lot of things. And your emotional quotient can be increased by increasing your self-awareness factor. So my request to all of you, please try kindly get your jury done whenever you have time. You have time over the weekend. Please spend some time. It takes only about a half an hour or so. Take some time, sit at peace, think honestly, authentically. Genuine responses have to be given because we need to be using this in, later in life. It is a part of your application. Try and do that, and then think about the situations and how you handled. Was it good? Was it bad? If it was good, you can say your emotional intelligence was good. And if for some reason it was not that good, it's a indication that you need to probably work a little more to enhance. Now, these are the 5 components. Emotional intelligence would mean self-awareness coming first. That is why we talked about self-awareness. Then you have self-regulation. Many times you become aware, but you don't implement anything. You don't change, you don't do anything. If you don't do, there's no point knowing about it. And you cannot get demotivated. Yeah, what's going to happen? It doesn't matter, you know. That kind of demotivation should not happen. Many times when we see that, it's not happening, I tried doing something, but somehow it just didn't work. You just drop it. But where these things are concerned, this is a life turning moment for you. Like it's an achievement which is going to stay with you. It is concerning you, that I coming in there. You cannot get demotivated. It is highly recommended. Please stay motivated and get the thing going. Don't drop it there. What about this empathy? Many times, again, when we are talking, even in the jury's window, you saw, I know, you don't know. You don't know, I know. There's a lot of empathy that needs to go in there. You need to empathize with people as to why they're behaving in a particular way. If I'm not sharing something with you, even at work, something which is related to work, there may be a reason, isn't it? Probably I had a bad experience. I shared with her, she went and said she did it. So since then, I stopped doing it. Quite possible. But then, is that the end of life? Is that what the correct thing that need to happen in a workplace? No, that is not. So I need to first empathize to help the other person probably get out of the mass stage, the hidden stage, the third quadrant. And only when I get that situation which is more comforting, can I hope to see this shifting to the open area she's going to share with me. Because now she's a little more comfortable. I have convinced her. I interacted with her. Now she can share with me. And once she shares, automatically it's come to the open. I know, all of us know. So this kind of this Jory's window that you use, let me tell you, it really works like magic. It may sound a little weird when I say magic, but then let me tell you, it is magic. It works beautifully. Try. That is what is going to ultimately help you know more about yourself. We have a lot of social skills, so we are a little okay with that, our generation especially. But the other 4 need to work. And I think when we are talking about teachers, when we're talking about educators, this component has to work on, the 4 of them: their self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy. Automatically, your social skills will be taken care of because, like I said, we are a little okay with it. We are not challenged on that front. So now, why is emotional intelligence so important? If we know man is a social being. He cannot sit quiet. He cannot sit quiet by himself, isolated, in isolation. He can't do that. And we are all, like it says, we are all wired for connection. We are wired like that. We have to meet people. We have to talk to people. We can't sit in one place and say, oh, go ahead and do what you were doing. You know, it finishes there. No, it doesn't finish there. We are going to be communicating. We are going to be interacting with people. So the more we interact, more conflicts may arise. We are not trying to say that everything is hunky-dory. When two people talk, either it is lot of, very congenial talking, or it could be very nasty. It could be. It could be normal too. It's all right. We didn't fight. We didn't argue. We are okay. But then when a situation comes when you're going to be not happy, you're going to have conflicts, how are you going to resolve that? Now take the case of your own workplace. You had an argument with your probably level coordinator. How are you going to resolve? What are you going to do? Are you going to shout at her? Are you going to push her, pull her? What are you going to do? Call her names? How are you going to resolve it? Or are you going to just leave and go? Nothing is correct. None of this is correct. You can't leave it and go. You can't shout at her. So what do you do about it? We need to understand where we are operating from. There has to be some kind of correlation. We need to build positive relationships. That can happen. A positive relationship can be developed only when I know what I have, what is it that I don't have, and how can I have what I don't have. And some of this, how can I have what I don't have, is directly related or directly passed on to us through our peers only, or your family members, people who matter. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. Why? Because that kind of a feedback has to be given to you. Even if it is negative, it has to be told. You were not good at all. Come on, my dear, you need to pull up. You didn't behave well today. So when you get a feedback, what do? Again, whether you get a positive feedback or a negative feedback, your open area improves because again, okay, I shouldn't be doing this probably. Next time I'll make sure I don't do it. This is exactly how that happens. Even when children are concerned, what's going to happen? When a child knows how he's going to express himself, what happens here? It's written here very clearly. One evidence that we have is probably that reduces bullying. Why? Because he knows how is he going to manage himself. So the age appropriate emotional intelligence, emotional quotient, emotional learning has to be provided to children. And this is best embedded in the lesson itself. We need to be doing, can't have a period saying this is a period for emotional intelligence, emotional lesson. No, there's nothing like that. So what do? We need to serve whenever possible, whether it's a morning assembly or wherever, as educators, we need to be creating an opportunity for children where the activity that they perform is going to lead to an enhancement of emotional intelligence. And even when you get the children to do their own jury window, age appropriate jury window, you can see a difference in the way children are going to be socializing. That is why the socio-emotional learning comes together. The emotional learning comes first, and high emotional learning leads to better social placement. So the social and emotional learning go hand in hand. One thing leads to another. So we can't say the social doesn't come, it didn't happen. And especially this factor, empathy, you know, many of them keep wondering, how are we going to teach them empathy? A lot of these kind of activities, your early morning assembly times, they can do a lot of good to teach these kind of independent skills, the individual skills that will lead, that will promote, that will foster social, emotional learning. And that is how we are going to be creating children who are very resilient and children who demonstrate greater perseverance and greater patience. These things can't be learned by lecture or anything. You need to give them opportunities to practice. And the practice opportunities has to be created by teachers. A teacher can create a proper opportunity, which actually is impactful only when she has experienced how she has become aware of her own self. Many, I don't know how many of you can actually connect. There's a general saying, like, the people who live a very elevated living, they know better about their own self. They're aware of their own self. You need to be do meditation. You can do it. Actually, meditation helps to elevate your level of existence. You start living a very high life. And that's important for a teacher. Yoga, meditation, all these kind of things, they were there with us. It's just that somehow we were not very aware of how they're going to benefit us. We didn't get indulged in any of these activities. These are those activities that are actually going to be helping your own self and your students also. There is a scenario here, which is a real scenario. So you can see how it works. You and your colleague were up for the same promotion, okay? But they got it instead of you. I'm sure many of you can actually relate. Probably there is some friend or your husband and his colleague were in for a promotion. Your husband didn't get, the other person got, or whatever. Now, how are you going to assess this situation? It's a very simple situation. If a person had a higher IQ, what would he do? You reflect and realize that if you're honest with yourself, you weren't working as hard as your coworker. Not only working hard, there was something which was missing in you, and their promotion is well deserved. And if you have a lower IQ, what do? You may fire off an angry email to your boss, demanding an explanation or threatening to quit. We are familiar with this situation. No, this organization is very biased. They don't care for what I do. I think I have to look for a job. This doesn't work. Next session, I am going to leave this job. I will never get promoted like this. But why don't we look at it in a more positive way? Probably there was something we didn't do enough, and hence we did not. And the other person did a little bit more. He did. So when we understand this is what? Something which I don't know and the others know. Are you seeing how it gets fitted into this Johnny's window? This goes into the third quadrant, the hidden area, the masked area, where I don't know something which the others know. What is it that I didn't know here? That I am not working enough to get promoted. I should have worked a little bit more. So somebody who has a higher IQ and is going to be thinking positively will definitely understand that he deserved. So it's okay. Next time, let me work harder. That is a kind of mindset. This is what the self-awareness is going to be doing. And the more you understand, the lesser you are in conflict with yourself. Now look at the second one. What does it say? If you have understood that you didn't work enough, so you didn't get promoted, will you have an altercation with your boss, with your superior, with the person who got promoted instead of you? You will not. So that makes your living less stressful, that makes you more flexible, more resilient. So this kind of awareness is very important. This is what your EQ can do. Now, do you think this kind of a situation can be resolved with just intelligence? You are intelligent. You have done your masters. You have done so many educational qualifications. So your IQ wise, you're fine. Somewhere you're short of your EQ. So developing and increasing the level of your EQ is going to actually determine how well it is going to augur for you. Are you going to be? And by demonstrating higher EQ, let me tell you, it impresses your superiors also. Not by just shooting off a mail or having a verbal altercation. Ma'am, give me an appointment. I'd like to talk to you regarding this. She's not going to like it. Because saying that in some way means you're challenging her decision. You're in some way trying to tell her that, probably she didn't do a right promotion. This is true for a man or a woman. It's true for anybody. This is a very familiar situation that we get into many times. So we have to make sure that we are going to be using all avenues for increasing and elevating our EQ, which ultimately is going to lead to a higher state of self-awareness. And higher states of self-awareness definitely will ensure that you are a better person. You are a better person. You're going to be dealing with your own self. You're not going to get stressed. You definitely end up performing better. You, as like we said, you're going to be performing multiple roles. So you may be better as a parent. You understand your children better. You're a better teacher. You understand your students better. You understand your spouse better. You understand your parents and parents-in-law better. There's a lot that will happen with you in your life. So when you're happy, a happy teacher, happy student, happy teacher, happy schooling. So ultimately, it is only going to work in your favor rather than not working for you. So now, how are you going to improve your emotional quotient? This is what is the most important thing. We understood everything is good, it's needed, it's very important. How are you going to do it? There are so many others that are going to qualify for being agents for emotional intelligence, which are the various components that we have. But we are going to be focusing today only on the self-awareness. What is the best, the traditional, and the most common thing that you do? Journal. Can you see the underlined word here? Journal. We are going to be doing the journal writing. Journal writing is another form of maintaining diary writing. Why is it good? Why do we say it is good? Because you don't write a diary just because you want to write something. What will you write now? Suppose I say, write a diary. What are you going to write? Nothing. Maybe, may not be. Somebody might have something to write. That's okay. But majorly, no. What are you going to write? Hardly anything. But then, if you are expected to sit down, spend some time, and I say, reflect upon it. The task that I've given you, that is journal writing. Is that okay? So the task that I gave you, I hope all of you have copied it. Otherwise, I can share it with Shamiji. She can share it and send it to all of you. Or towards the end, once we end, anytime, I'll bring the screen again. That slide will be there. Probably you can take a slide shot. Okay? You can take a pic and you can work on it. You have to work on it. Why I insist you work on it is there's no procrastination. What you need to do today can be done today. You don't need to do it tomorrow. You know, the quicker you do, the earlier we say you are ready to become more aware of yourself and you are getting adapted to understanding that there is something that you need to do. Till you accept that there is something that I need to do, you will never be able to do. Suppose I keep saying, I'm fine, I'm fit, I don't need, I'm complete, total. I don't need anything. There's no shortcoming in me. There is no drawback in me. I'm fantastic. Is there any learning? No. When do you learn? Only when you know there is something that you don't know. And you also know that it has to be learned. I need to know. I don't know, so I learn. Suppose I think, oh God, I know everything. Why do I need to learn? Leave it. Let the others learn. They don't know. I know. Will you learn? No, there's no learning that's happening. This is true for every human being. Why human being? For every living being, even doggies. Even if the doggies decide they don't want to learn, they'll never learn. So similarly, we need to understand that it has to be learned. So first we need to know what is it that I'm not aware about my own self. Once I know what I don't have, I will look for it. I will seek. That is when you become a learner. Similarly, when I understand, okay, after doing the journey window, okay, this is something, patience. No, I think I'm short of patience. See, it's not happening here. Let me do it. Let me do. Now, consciously, you will start thinking that I have to exercise patience. I should not get angry. So if I should not get angry, what is it that I should be doing? So a lot of things will come. All these will get into your journal. So you write it today, look at it tomorrow. There's a lot of learning that is happening. You will see. I was like this, I did this yesterday. I didn't do this today, so that means I'm better than yesterday. So this is all a growing situation, evolving situation that is happening for you. And the more these kind of situations you have, the better you are placed as a individual and as an educator, especially. Why I focus on this educator more is simply because you are responsible for creating, modifying, transforming future. Children are with you. You are going to be creating what tomorrow has to be like. You are the agents of social change. Being so important, I'm very passionate that, teachers have to be top class, you know, leave everything else. I'm not concerned with anything else. I'm worried that teachers have to be absolutely top notch. They need to know, they need to be very flexible, they have to be adaptable, very resilient, very high on emotional quotient, very aware of what she can do. And if there's something she can't do, she's going to learn about it. That's her EQ. So this domain, which comes with the attributes of a teacher, is very, very important. And these are the other things that we can do to ultimately make sure that we are going to be learning. There's a lot of learning that is going to happen here. Mindfulness and meditation. This is very important. Mindfulness here. Am I doing the right thing? Again, thinking. See, that is why this journal writing is so important. When you write something, you will know, does it have any meaning? Is it valid? Not valid? How is it happening? So we need to make sure that we are going to be mindful and learn to meditate, even if it is for 5 minutes. It helps a lot. It works on the brain cells, and once the brain cells rejuvenate, you come as a new person. And this meditation here, it is about the present that you're going to be thinking, and you're going to be focusing on now, the present, not the future, not the past. Past is gone. You're not living in your past, isn't it? And the future is yet to come. You have not reached there. So what is with you is only the present. So think about the present. What is happening to me? Did I do good? Not good. So think about this. Focus on today. Focus on now. Automatically you will see yourself evolving and feeling better mentally, less stressed. You'll feel yourself doing things which you thought probably was very challenging. Now, this grounding techniques, you know, now grounding techniques are what? Many times we have seen out of anger, we erupt. But you need to be uh, I think many of you would have even heard, like, people would say, you're getting angry, before you react, count 10. Those kind of things are grounding techniques. Probably if there's another session, or I can share these with, you know, Shami ma'am, like I said, she can share them with you. Probably there, whenever you're having the part two, the other segment of this, you can have these a few techniques so you know how is it to be done and what is it to be done. This grounding technique is very important. They say take it down with a pinch of salt. What is it? That's a grounding technique. Grounding technique is something where even if you're getting elevated due to a negative emotion, you are low with your emotional quotient at some point of time, this grounding will make you high on your emotional quotient. Now, if, for example, you're having your boss who's getting angry with you, is trying to tell you something that, you didn't do well, you could have done better, whatever. You can't be hitting off at him, can you? What do you do at that time? Probably you're clenching your fist, you're grinding your teeth. That's all okay. But then you're getting grounded, right? There's no eruption. But then, is that the right thing to do? Probably no, that's not the right thing. You are at a low emotional quotient state. So you need to enhance and go on to the higher level. So these grounding techniques will help you rise. I will share this with you. Probably when we interact, probably we can address this. What about this yoga? Many of you are actually doing yoga. All of us are familiar with this yoga now. Everybody wants to do. So yoga is the next one. And this SWOT, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the SWOT. This is S stands for strength, W for weakness, O for opportunities, T for threat. So you can make 4 columns and write down what is your strength, what is your weakness, what are the opportunities that you see. Now, for example, in a school situation, let me tell you. Now, when you're talking about the strength being in school, you can say my strength is I can do so much work. I can create a question paper so quickly. I can correct and send the, assignments back very quickly. I don't keep a backlog. I reach school on time. My parents are very happy. Yeah, a lot of things can be your strength. What about your weakness? I can't take this. There's so much of correction to do. I can't do this correction. They want you to do co-curricular act. They want you to do morning events also, assembly. I can't do. There's so much work. I have to do work at home also. So probably when you talk of work, this kind of thing can maybe your weakness. What about the opportunity? Opportunity is something that you see that is like we said, dangle a carrot. What is the opportunity? The opportunity may be I'm the class teacher now. I have the opportunity to become the coordinator for grade 4, coordinator for grade 5. So that's an opportunity I see. So now to get that opportunity, to make the best out of that opportunity, what is it that I'm going to be doing? I may work hard. So that's an opportunity that is making me work hard. What about the threat? The threat is the next section, teacher. She is also vying for the same thing. So she is my threat. But now will I try to dig a grave for her? No. If I do that, I'm in the negative IQ. I'm in the low IQ. She can be there, but then I'll try to work better than she's working. I'll try to do something more than what she's doing. So I stand out vis-a-vis her. So I now have transformed my threat to an opportunity. So you need to identify, do a small SWOT, which is a shortcut work, and see what is it that I can do. This will help you enhance your chances of succeeding in career, getting promoted, and getting those opportunities which you thought you won't be getting. Journaling, we already talked about. What is this 360-degree feedback? This 360-degree feedback is a feedback that you will get from all levels of people who are around you. It could be even your student. Many times you can ask your student also, how did you like the lesson today? Liked it? No? Uh-oh, what is wrong? So that gives a direct feedback to you. Now, once you get the feedback, I know, they also know. It comes into you increase your open area, the arena part. So this 360-degree feedback is also very important. That is why we have 360-degree holistic report card now as a part of your NDP. Because if somebody needs to utilize a feedback for growth, generally feedback is for growth. And if you don't give the correct kind of feedback, we don't see much growth happening. So we have to be working on the 360-degree feedback and give it impartially. We are not going to be bringing any negative feelings in here. It is to be given very honestly. And we seek feedback from people who we think are honest. There are many of them who say, my principal doesn't like me. I won't. That's okay. Let's not bother about that. Take from somebody you think will give you an authentic feedback, will tell you something about you honestly, not bothering on anything else. So this 360-degree feedback also works a great deal. It helps you charge yourself, it helps you change yourself, and it helps you enhance your capabilities to optimize or maximize your potential, your competencies. What about a personal vision? This is the most important thing. If you don't feel, like I just said, if you feel, I know everything, what is it that you're going to be learning? Is there anything that you're going to learn? I don't think so. What do you do here? You have to have this kind of a open-mindedness. There's enough to learn. You are never, completely shut out to learning. You cannot afford to be, especially as a teacher. Every day comes with a new challenge. You may be prepared, may not be prepared. Self-awareness, emotional quotient actually help you deal with all these kind of situations. So when you as an individual, you feel you don't need to learn more, you don't need to know more. I think there comes a stagnation. And that is where, again, somebody who is your threat will get promoted because that person may not be thinking like this. He will be doing something more. I'll give you a very small example here. We know, all of us are, I'm a postgraduate BEd. She's also postgraduate BEd. MA, BA, MA, BEd, MA, BEd. Both of us are MA, BEd. We are both done regular degrees. Now, how do I choose between the two of them? I have only one opportunity. I need to see who has that one thing more than the other. I take them. There are some, like I said, who have this opinion. I don't need to learn. Meri padai is over. My education is complete. I am holistic. I don't need to do much. But there is somebody who still feels I can do a certification without too much, you know, so money being spent or whatever. Because after all, nobody wants to keep on spending money on degrees and things like that. And fortunately, we have this option of your Coursera, Udemy, where you don't spend too much money. You can keep doing. It's a 6 week free course. And at the end, you get an e-certificate. So definitely somebody who's done two courses like that, two courses, either from Coursera, wherever, she knows a little more than the other person, isn't it? So my choice automatically shifts here. So this personal vision of where you see yourself, that actualization, self-actualization. I'm there, I'm fine. You know, this is all that I needed to do. I have achieved everything. That probably may not be the right mindset. You need to have a very open opinion. That is why this open quadrant, the bigger it is, the better it is. You need to accommodate a lot of these kind of things. You need to do it, just do it. It's okay. They're not difficult at all. And you can do it at your pace. It doesn't say do it in 1 day, do it in 2 days, do it tomorrow and give it to me. In the beginning itself, it says it's a 6 week course. You need to finish it here. So you space yourself, do it when you feel like, do it the way you feel like, but then you are enhancing your own portfolios. So that ultimately depends on your own vision as to how it works. And the next thing you can do is observe others. What is it that they're all doing? If there is somebody who is very happy and who is very successful, you can always try to copy that person, isn't it? The person is actually demonstrating the way you can do things differently and you can do things better. If there is a person who's probably achieving a lot, getting more competent, you can always do it. We say, she's my role model. So you can always have role models, look at the way they do things, try and modify, tweak a little bit of what they do to suit your own conveniences, but it's all in your hand. So that is why this awareness is so important. Till you accept and you become aware of your strength and your weaknesses, it is very difficult to bring about any change in your own being. You'll continue being what you are, and then little later, boredom will set in. Like, what's so great in my career? It's just the same. Who made it same? I didn't make it for you. Opportunity is same for everybody. That Coursera which is there, it is there for everybody. I took it, you didn't take it. That's your choice. So this awareness about what you want, your vision as to what you should be in the next 2 years, your 3 years. How am I going to conduct myself to see that I can survive till that time? Many of them drop out of jobs, after 5 years or 6 years, especially teaching. Once they have babies, I have seen many teachers, they say, I can't manage both. Why? It could be low emotional quotient. They don't want to do it. Next thing, they're not even aware of what they can actually do. There's too many things that are hidden. They're all in the hidden domain. They don't know. Hidden and the blind spot. You have something, but you're not aware of what you already have. So then what are you going to do? You don't know, so you don't do it. So where is the growth happening? It will not happen. So when you're having those kind of things, you need to become aware. The more aware you are, the easier things become for you. You know how to handle it. You know how to be doing things which probably will be in your favor, which are beneficial for you, which will lead to your satisfaction, which will lead to a lot of your relief in stress, relief in your performance enhancements. It will help you in a big deal. So, this awareness becomes very important. So, if you need to be working on this awareness, probably this has to be taken care of. Work on it. Don't leave it. There we are. Get this done. And this will help you a lot. The more you get into it, and the journal, try and work on the journal. It is a great relief also. This one, and you can take this image also, because this will talk about the 55 adjectives which directly amount to, or they lead to some place in any of these quadrants. Like you can see, they are done here. And once it is done, you know where you are. It is told to you very clearly. This has to be the lightest. This has to be the biggest, the open area. That is the green one that you saw here. This has to be the biggest. This is how it has to be. But looking at this, it is not the same. It's just the opposite. So this person needs attention. Don't fear attention and try to write something which is going to actually, look very artificial. Don't do that. Let it be authentic so that you can actually bring about a change in your own self. You start becoming more aware of yourself, and you have a better control over your own self, because this is me. It's okay. I'm wise. Fine, I'm wise. I can be. How do you know you're wise? Purely by the kind of things that you do. And when you're doing something, not with the intention of showing others, there are others who are trying to give you feedback. That's a wise thing you did. Then oh, yeah. So when you're going to be beginning this jury's window, what you do is, out of this 55 that I'm going to be giving, just choose 5. Okay, just choose 5 and try and put them wherever you think they fit in, even if they go into more than one quadrant. Now, don't make it a this one that 5, 5, 5, 5. All 5 are coming in all 5. That can't happen. If that is happening, then you're trying to fake it. It's not authentic. Try and put it. It can come in 2. It can come in 3 at the most. 1 and 4 can't be the same. Many times it is seen, it doesn't work. Then after you put it, you can ask your friends also to fill in this for you as a part of feedback. If you're at home, you can ask your spouse to do it for you. These 5, come on, put it here. Where do you put it? And then see how they match. If they are the same, then wow, this is true. This is how I am. If there is wrong, that's a feedback for you. Automatically, it'll shift from the blind spot to the open area. So this is how you talk to people who really matter. Then you can do the same thing with a good friend of yours, a colleague, or you get together, all the teachers of grade 5, all 4 of you, 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D, sit together, do it for each other, and your coordinator can validate. Is it true? Is it wrong? Then you know where you are. Okay, so that's how you need to be doing to make things easy. Just choose any 5 which you think are there in you. All of you will have a lot of things, more than 5, but choose the best 5. That's up to you. And since it is yours, it's never wrong. There's nothing absolutely right, absolutely wrong. What is here is what is there. That's it. It's yours, for you, and it is done by you. So it is very valuable. So try doing this, and probably when you come back for the second part, we will know which way it is. What worked, what didn't work, what can be better. You can always reflect upon it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So if there are any queries, anything that you'd like to know, most welcome, please. Anybody who has, you can, Now I'll take the presentation off from here, so we can probably see if there is somebody who is asking something, who'd like to, connect with it. we'll have a better understanding of if there's anything that they'd
Let
like to
me,
know about
yeah,
this.
thank you, ma'am. Let me ask one question because we also are working on this area on life skills and mental health. When we started these sessions 5 year back, and the principal told us that we use this Jory window concept, and she straight away told us that this is uh, something that is used in the corporate. So why are you using this? So it is very difficult for us to convince them that how it is making an impact. So what
Hmm.
is your take on it? Because I do agree that I have seen so many corporate session where this jury window is
Absolutely.
used a lot. But as
Yes.
far as the education is concerned, the schools are concerned, they are not focusing on this. Yeah.
I'll tell you. First thing is, we need to understand this jury window is not whether it is corporate or non-corporate. We need to understand why is it and what is it for. You know, Johari window is for self-awareness. The self-awareness is for a teacher, the self-awareness is for a mummy, the self-awareness is for a daddy, it's self-awareness for everybody. So anybody who wants to know more about themselves will go into a Johari window. So there's no question of whether it is a corporate thing. It was a corporate thing only because fortunately or unfortunately, I wouldn't like to say that, but I am saying it because this is a fact that, and we all need to accept. The corporates, there is a lot of training that happens for the staff. Hotel industry, there's a lot of training that's happening. Okay. Airlines, there's a lot of training that's happening. Your IAS, IPS, all your civil services, there's a lot of training happening. Why not for the teachers? They are the people who are going to be creating future, and yet we don't train them. They're going to be doing one B.Ed, and will that B.Ed suffice the entire career of teaching? No, because the teaching domain is changing. It's so dynamic. Most dynamic is teaching.
Yes.
And we are not training. Will a teacher leave a job, go to another B.Ed? Has the B.Ed changed? It's the same textbook. What I read is what my some of my teachers are still reading. 40-year-old book, huh? Please, the pages have become brown. You turn it and it break. It's that bad, but they're still doing it. It is a domain which unfortunately has been neglected too much in our country, and which I just don't like. I feel very bad about it. Why is it happening? But that's true. But then, if it is true, and if I need to know when I am upskilling, this resistance will be there because even the principal is not too aligned too much about this. Some of them have actually got aligned, but some of them are very resistant.
Yes.
I don't think ever a teacher or an educator should be resistant. They should be the most flexible. Makhan malai, they should be, the sweetest, because they are creating children, little babies. 3-year-old comes to you. Can you be a harsh person? No. You've got to be all honey and sugar, and there are children, who are struggling at higher levels. Can you be harsh with them? No. They need help. If they were getting that help, they won't be what they are. If they are not doing well in some way, we are very clear they're not getting enough at home. And if they're not getting enough at home, who's going to do it? I'm going to do. I'm an educator. I will do. I'm like a foster mother for them. For 5 hours, 6 hours, they're in school. I'm their mummy. At home, she is their mummy, biological mummy. I'm the professional mummy, education mummy, school mummy. I'll do it for them. I'll be there for them. I'll help the teacher do it. So the principle, that is why I have lot many principal workshops than anything else. I personally feel there is a need for alignment there. Our teachers have moved on a little bit more, but I think somewhere our principals are sticking around, which probably is not a good situation to be in. Principals have to
Yes.
move. They need
Like,
to understand that teachers have to be trained. Send them. They are ready. Many teachers are ready, but they turn around and say, we don't have permission from our management. Now, what does a poor lady do? No training. So we can't blame anybody. I think there has to be a radical shift here. That is why I keep saying, ye sab apne level pe, wherever possible, please do it. Wherever you get a chance, grab it with both hands, just do it. Principles are, some of them are challenged, some of them are very good, supremely good. But then how do we identify? We are not here to identify and categorize, right? Good principle, bad principle. Everybody has to do it. So you can't say this is a corporate thing. Being aware of yourself, is it only corporate?
Mm.
Don't you want to be aware of your own self? Then there is a question of corporate. At one time, since they are training people, they did it. You never trained, you never did it. Now we are training, we'll do it now. Get aware, move. Till you are aware, what kind of change you will bring? I don't even know what my strength is. What will I do? I'll never do. I'm where I am, stagnant.
Yes.
Can an educator become stagnant? No, she can't be. She has to move, dynamics. She has to go ahead. So this question of, thoda sa we are challenged a little bit, but then I think it will settle down with time. We
So
need to
teachers,
just
I
move in.
request if you have any question, you can also put in on the chat also because Radha ma'am के पास थोड़ा time भी कम होता है, so we want that you should.
You can drop and or they can do another thing. They can mail to you all and you can share the mail with me. Even that's
Sure,
okay.
sure, sure.
That's also okay. You
And
know,
teachers, after listening to Radha ma'am, let me tell you that the way she explained about I, it is so empowered. It is so empowering. If we make our children to be aware of the power of this I, every child will be able to say that they are confident individual. So
absolutely, Artiji. You hit it on the
yes.
target. You
Yes.
know, this is where
Because
we
ma'am,
go.
we in our workshop we use prop of a big eye likha hua hai and I always keep it. This is my eye and where is your eye? Where do your eye stand? So that is often my question. So that is why I ask the teacher also. I suggest the teacher also empower your student eye. You can see the kind of confidence they will be building. And
You
second thing,
know,
everything comes from the top. For example, the principal have a good strategy, everything, then they definitely it comes down. Now,
implement it.
yes, but yes, you in your class is the principal of this class. Now
Absolutely.
things come down to the students in your own fashion.
You have to, because
Yes.
see, these are some things which many will say, like, and a lot will happen when you see all of them face to face. You have some certain limitations when we are talking online and those kind of things, but when you see them face to face, there's so much that can happen, like, but then when that is happening, you don't leave it as a happening and walk off. That happening should actually get translated into happening in the class, which many times it does not happen. When they are here with you, this is what the principal says. Ma'am, in front of you, they all would have said, we will do, we will do, we will do. But did it really happen? But then it should happen. And I think it is the responsibility of every educator to get deeply involved in it and try to enhance these things, because the more children get empowered, the greater is the chances that we'll all succeed ultimately, because they are going to be probably heading, leading places, getting into opportunities, all those kind of things. And if they're going to be the future, they have to be good. They can't be bad. Now, in one of the meetings, let me share something, it's off track, but then I think it makes some relevance. They were saying, and we all know, India I think in the next couple of years, in the next decade, we are going to be a country which has the maximum youth population. The youngest population is going to be in our country. Japan would have gone, all old people, China would have gone, many of them, even Europe, they would have gone purely because they're all aged people. And we are going to be a very young country. If we don't tune our youngsters, you don't teach them to think, you don't teach them to be aware of yourself, how to change, how to accept change, how to be resilient, how to be flexible, adaptable, sooner or later, unfortunately, we'll be a country full of young idiots. They can't even think. Where are we going? Simply saying young country, does it help?
Agree, ma'am.
Teach that young child to think. The minute he starts thinking, what happens in many households we've heard. I've heard in many. I don't know how many of you. You're all much younger. I don't know. So probably you won't have heard. Jada dimag mat chalao, okay? Do as I'm saying. Why, man? Why shouldn't he or she think? Those kind of things we don't do. You don't stop them. And little later, the same parent will say, today you said what? Don't think too much. Don't, dimag mat chala. And little later, when he does something very silly, don't you have a brain? सोच नहीं सकते हो. अरे जब सोच रहा था मना किया ना. You see how conflicting it is. So this is where the self-awareness is going to help an adult, a youngster, a teacher. It's going to help everybody. It's a universal thing, and the more we indulge in it, I think greater is the success of succeeding. We won't go bad. We won't go wrong. When we say we're a young country, we can say young country who can think. So we are not getting into a country which can't think.
Absolutely true. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Dr. Ram.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for being there. But do your work and let's have your feedback in the second.